the dash lights for clues. Oh, headlights. I'm not used to driving at night. My license is only a couple of months old, but after making it here, despite pissy Missouri drivers, tired Oklahomans, middle finger saluting Texans, and clueless New Mexicans, I've got the mileage, if not the age. The entrance glows under an outdoor light. Inside, the lobby is cramped, and the once white walls are striated with grime. I scan the list of names next to the buzzer buttons. There is no Witherspoon. Our last name is missing. I curl a finger, rest my knuckle against the buzzer box, and slide it down, stopping at each name to be sure. Gonzalez, scribbled in blue ballpoint, Marshall in black Sharpie, new in looping red ink, and a name that reminds me of G-rated swearing. I yank my I yank my camera bag off my shoulder and crouch, setting it on the floor. The zipper grinds open and I unload my camera and flash, searching for the envelope that my mom handed me before I left. I recheck the address. I'm in the right place. But for the first time, I notice that the letter was postmarked a month ago. I taste copper. If Christian has moved, how am I supposed to find him? The envelope says 4B, even though 4B is labeled Marshall. I press the button and the buzz echoes in the tiny foyer. Answer, be home and answer. Outside, a FedEx truck roars, pauses, and roars again. Its white profile steals away, leaving a gasp of gray exhaust. A shrunken man drags the door open and holds it for his shrunken wife. Before they can even step over the threshold, they see me and stop. I am quite the picture. The split lip isn't the only re-landscaping my father has done. A purple mountain is rising on my jaw, and a red canyon cuts across my forehead. They stare at me, and I suck in my lip, hiding what I can. At that moment, a distorted voice comes through the speaker. Who is it? Can I really have this conversation over a speaker? Remember me, the brother you left behind? Well, I've caught up. Even in my imagination, I stop here. I leave out the rest. Ugh, I say. FedEx. The couple unfreezes. The man grasps his wife's elbow, tugs her outside, shoves the door closed, and helps her hobble away. Great way to start my Albuquerque tenure, scaring the locals. The buzzer sounds. I grab the handle, turn it, and climb the steps. On the second floor, I have to stop. The red shag carpet that has been accumulating odor since the 1970s is going to take some getting used to. I block up my nose as if I'm swimming and breathe through my mouth. Even worse, now I can taste the miasma of hash and cat piss. At least I hope it's cat piss. I close my mouth, wishing I didn't have to breathe, and take the steps two at a time to the fourth floor. Gold numbers against a dark wooden door. I press my palm against it, as if I can befriend the door and get it on my side. I knock and wait. I know some people go all deer in the headlights when they panic. Their lungs stop, their muscles freeze, even their brains silence. Me, my foot's on the gas and the map's flapping out the window. My imagination creates scenes in rapid successions. He'll throw open the door and hug me until I can't breathe. There'll be a pizza feast all laid out on a banquet table, 4 pies, all pepperoni and pineapple. I know, don't judge. He'll wrap an arm around my shoulder and say, I've been looking out from you even from here. Or maybe I'll be overwhelmed by the sweet smell of pot and his hair will be sticking up wildly and he'll mug me for the $3.84 I have left. Or maybe he won't recognize me. The door swings open and a rush of garlic overtakes the hash piss scent. My stomach lurches as if it wants to go in all on its own. An Asian woman, maybe late 20s, is standing at the door. Her hair's pinned up and she's wearing a little black dress. Her eyes travel me north to south and back north again. She slams the door. Through the wall, I hear a voice approaching, unmistakably Christian's tenor. It makes my scalp tingle. What's the problem, Miriam? That's not a FedEx guy. I slide the envelope under the door. Oh, God, he says. The hand rotates and Miriam says, No, don't. There's something wrong with him. I snort. She doesn't even know my name, and she's nailed me in one shot. Christian, I call through the door. My voice wavers. On the carpet, a triangle of light widens as the door opens. My brother, still taller than me, a good 4 inches. His face has elongated and thinned. The sinew in his neck tells me he's still a runner. Incongruously, I wonder if he's made it to the Boston Marathon yet. He's only 22, but crow's feet lightly scratch his skin. He wears a black suit. The knot in his tie hangs below his collarbone, and his top button is undone. Miriam stands behind him, a baseball bat perched on her shoulder. Jace, he exhales it all at once. He doesn't look me over. He doesn't stare me down, but he doesn't hug me either. His lips curve, but I can't read his smile. He cranes his neck around the door, looking for Mom. Just me, I say. He begins to close the door, but then it stops, half open, while he collects some stuff off the hooks and floor. Miriam is in her batter stance, waiting to see what kind of pitch I'll throw. When he pushes the door back open, he's carrying a jacket, and a pair of black high heels dangles from his fingers. He hands the shoes to her. Oh, she says, should I leave? She slides her pantyhosed toes into her heels. He presses his lips to her cheek. I'll make it up to you, I promise. His voice is so quiet, so mild, that I have to hold my breath to hear him. It's no problem, she says. This seems more important. More immediate, he corrects her. Ouch. Come over later, she asks. He says yes. His gaze takes a long road to find her face. He has no idea what he's going to say to her. I'm going to skip just a little bit. Miriam leaves. Christian strings his arms through his jacket sleeves. Outside, the temperature is dropping, and my coat is in Chicago. I stare at Christian so long that he gets me a windbreaker. When I slip my arms in, I can't reach the cuffs. If you're still here, we can get you a jacket of your own tomorrow, he says. He fishes in his pocket and gets out his keys. Do you still like pancakes for dinner? Should we go out for pancakes? I say yes. He tries to ask me something, doing a fish mouth move, but he can't get it out. When we reach the bottom of the steps, he turns around and looks at me. I wait for him to unload his questions, but he says nothing, crosses the foyer, and opens the door. When he turns back, he says, Can I ask you something? Sure, I say. Did he kill her? Not yet. So that's how I started the book. Thank you. Um, I started writing this after I'd been in law school for just a little bit. Um, and I had my first child, and he didn't love that I was going to law school. So I stopped and thought, well, I've always wanted to be a writer, and if I'm not going to be making money anyway, this would be the time to write. And there had been a story that had been playing in the back of my mind since 3 years before that, when I had been working in a domestic violence legal clinic. I was a paralegal there. And what I would do was listen to uh, victims of domestic violence, most of them women, come in and talk to me about the fact that they needed an order of protection and they were trying to leave. It was a surprisingly empowering job. It really helped me appreciate my husband, for one thing. But it also, to see all these people making these huge changes in their lives and see how much courage that took was really inspiring for me. It obviously was also pretty traumatic to hear all these stories, story after story. But I had been working in there probably for a year and a half, and I'd gotten used to a lot of it when one woman came in with her children. And her little boy was so cute. He must have been like 5 years old, and he was losing his tooth, his bottom tooth. And you know how kids, when they lose their bottom tooth, will stick their tongue out and move it around and like show it off to you. So he kept doing that. And I just sort of fell in love with him immediately. And then I took her and her children back into a waiting room. We started discussing why she was there and what had happened. And I said to her, an intern can look after your children if you don't want them to hear this. And she said, I want them to hear it. They were there anyway. And I it was my own reaction to that that I think bothered me so much, because my reaction to that was to get mad at her. She didn't know it, of course. I kept up a professional front and everything seemed okay. But I was so attached to that child that it was the first time that I felt like, well, who's looking out for your kids if it's not you? And that bothered me because I knew better. I'd been working there for a long time and I knew better than to blame the victim, but it still sort of stuck with me. So 10 years later, when I was ready to, or 3 years later, I don't know. I can't remember time. Sometime later, when I was ready to start working on this project, um, I was thinking about what it would be like to grow up in a house as that child, as the child of a man who was hitting his wife, and what that would do to kids. So I started with that question: what would it be like to be that boy? And I wanted to talk to teenagers, so I made him 15 and changed some of the circumstances, and then started writing that book with that question in my mind. Um, it starts in the place where, as you can see, he's already left his family. And that was a really interesting decision to make. It was not where I started the book the first time. It was where I started the book, maybe the second time I started it. I started initially at the moment he left and the reason he left his family. But I had a reader read it, and she felt like that didn't make him particularly sympathetic. Um, so and she was like, these kids are just a little too polished. And so there was no vulnerability, I think, in the moment that I was trying to show. So I moved my start place to when he showed up at Christian's doorstep, which turned out to be a really good place to start. And, I'm not sure exactly how that happened. Maybe there's some unconscious thing sometimes that tells you where to start things. Um, but it really helped me focus the book on the relationship between Christian and Jace and how their relationship could develop while he was trying to recover from being abused. So I'm going to ask you to unmute if you guys have questions or if you want to say anything at this point. And
You can
I
also
totally welcome them.
feel free also to put anything you'd like to be said in the chat, and I'll read it out if you would prefer to not speak yourself, or if you're having audio issues, of course.
Um, Well, I'll go ahead and say hello again. I had the opportunity to speak earlier before we started at 6, but I have read the book. I made a point to check it out of the library last week, and it's a very powerful read without a lot of gruesome details, but it
Hmm.
really dives deep into this boy's relationship with his older brother, his parents, and a girlfriend, and a few other characters. But I just thought it was that you really were able to channel the thoughts of a teenage boy. Um, it's, he's confused, but he knows what's right, he knows what's wrong, he's not quite sure how to get to the right answer. He wants to solve problems, he doesn't know how. And it reminded me a little bit of Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye, where he too is confused by the phoniness he sees around him in the adult world, and it doesn't ring true to him, and he doesn't know how to get from A to B. So I thought it was a very powerful read, and I like where you started the book, and I also like that it was in first person. He's the narrator, no matter how reliable or unreliable. He is it's good that it's in first person. So
Thank
that's
you.
all.
Thank you very much. I do think, since I teach creative writing, I think about point of view a lot. Um, and have become sort of the, like, on faculty, I'm like the person people come to for POV because it's what lets me into a book. Um, if I'm in first person or third person, the vantage at which I'm looking at the story changes tremendously. And I almost feel like a lot of craft decisions once you make that big decision about which point of view you want to be in, which one is going to serve your narrative, a lot of other craft decisions sort of fall from that. And so for me, that has been a very big choice to whether I work in first and third. And first is more natural for me. I think I really love characters and I like to understand how they think. I think of them as separate from me, and it does make me sound a little crazy. I recognize that, but I believe I'm not crazy because I know they're characters, but I can hear them talking to me. And I don't know if some of you get that same, I hope some of you get that same experience where you feel like a character is speaking to you. And I think it just brings so much life to the manuscript. Sometimes I feel like I'm just recording what people are saying because the imagination has taken over it entirely. And that's really when I feel like I have a book. So I enjoy that quite a bit. And now I'm working on a third person novel, which I can't believe how much I'm liking to have that freedom to step back and talk to the reader in a particular voice that's more adult and then slide into the character's perspective and slide back out. And I'm really enjoying the reliability of third person in a way that I hadn't thought I would need before. So thank you. That was great.
I want to ask a question about something that Linda said about the choice to not be graphic, to not show
Mhm.
too much of that. Could you talk about that for a moment? One would assume with a book like this, I think, that you would have to show violence. You would have to sort of zero in on that and give the audience that. So why did you decide not to?
Well, I wouldn't say it was violence free. I would
Okay.
say there are three scenes of violence in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because most of the book goes to younger readers, and so I want to be careful when I think about how to present the book. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's important that I present the book showing people that yes, there will be violence in here. It's
Mm-hmm.
not entirely clean, as they would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't want to get sucked into the idea of showing only violence, though, because I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very common for people who are on the outside of an experience to look at something like that and think of it in terms of statistics or tropes instead of thinking of the character as a fully developed person. So Jace is not just a victim, he's a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his victimhood is part of what's made him who he is, but it's not the only thing. You know, he likes soccer. He um, has a particularly wry way of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he felt to me like a full character, and that was really important to me that I find a way to show him as a full person, not just as a victim. Because I think that most kids who are going through this often they won't see themselves as victims.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing that they want to hear from anybody is that they're a victim of abuse. It just creates a huge amount of cognitive dissonance, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because they still
Mm-hmm.
love the person that they're being abused by.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, that was part of it. And also, I would say there's one scene that is very violent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, feels really violent to me. So I didn't want to dull my audience to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other reason.
Mm, I love that. That's a really, really, sorry, I'm going to take that to class. That's a really wonderful response to that. But yeah, we don't think about how we numb our audiences to certain things and lull them a bit. And yeah, perhaps the impact is much more powerful.
Right, right. And I do think that we set like one of the tricks of writing, in my opinion, is about setting the scale. Like, how important is a moment has to do with a lot of different factors, right? So you can envision, say, a book where there's a person who drops a teacup and
Mm-hmm.
that's the end of the world,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to go in the same book where there are people shooting other people as they drive by, uh, spies who are like, doing big car chases. Those things aren't not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily going to fit in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the openings of chapters, the openings of novels, which is probably some of what I'm going to talk about, um, is this idea of like, how are you setting that scale? How do you suggest this is the work that it's going to accompany? And what is the what's going to be important in these moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
I've heard
sorry.
Claire Vay Watkins say, you teach your readers how to read your book in the first few pages. And sounds like a very similar thing where, yeah, you're sort of setting the stage in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, in a lot of ways we don't even think about with reader expectation and yeah, even things like gratuity and yeah.
Right. It is sort of astonishing to me, actually. Like, I don't know, I'd be interested in hearing from you all, but I do feel like there's uh, for me, when I read the first three, 4 pages of a novel, I feel myself thinking into the world of the novel.
Hmm.
And sometimes I have to read the beginning much more slowly because I'm still getting the voices going in my head. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of it does have to do with that idea that I'm teaching myself how to read the novel in, the first few pages. And certainly by the end of the chapter, if I don't know how to read this novel, I'm probably not going to be that interested in it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's so, yeah, we just don't think of writing as instruction quite in that way. You know what I mean? Or I
Yes.
often don't. Creative writing.
Yes, because we don't want our readers to feel like here's something I'm going to tell you. Here's
Hmm.
and one of the things that I struggle with this book is that I really didn't want it to become an issue book,
Yeah.
um, because I'm not trying to teach a lesson
Hmm.
necessarily in it. To a degree, I am. I have a point of view on what I think,
Hmm.
but I also think that there are a lot of points of view that can be validated, and everybody gets to have their own.
Hmm.
And hopefully, a book will open you up to different points of view that you can think about.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I love that.
Okay, so thank you all for participating. Since we're going to be doing openings next time, I'm going to give you the opening of my second novel as soon as I find it. Where did I put my Kindle? Sorry. I know I had this open. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. This is a new way for me. I'm shaking my whole camera to read. I'm reading off my Kindle just to see what it's like because this book is actually only now in electronics. So you can only get it on ebook. So I thought, okay, what is it like to read this as an ebook? So I actually bought my own ebook and I'm trying to read it that way and see what happens. Thanks for indulging me with that. So this book is also for young adults. It's called Chasing Shadows. I'm going to show you the cover as soon as I can share my screen. Um, and you can see that this is a much more commercial cover than the first one with the keys. And that was a decision that I don't get to make. I don't know if you guys know that, but that is a decision based that my publishers make. So they thought when they first started marketing it, they thought it was going to be more of a commercial success. And then as they read it, they thought, oh, maybe we should have done this differently. But it was a little too late then. Um, so this book is narrated in 2 points of view. Both of them are in first person, and I'm going to read from the opening chapter. So the first word is Holly because it tells us who's speaking. I am not the leopardess, but sometimes I wish I were. As I dangle off the edge of this roof, could use her steel claws. Superheroes get wicked toys, cinematic escapes, and guaranteed wins. If I could live in a comic, I'd be the leopardess. And if I were the leopardess, I'd be fearless. But I'm just Holly Paxton, so I have to run my fear ragged. I tighten my grip on the cold edge of the roof, close my eyes, and open my breathing deep into my body. No, that didn't work at all. Sorry. There. I sink into free running mode, where my thoughts are dictated by the Morse code of footsteps and the flow from jump to jump, where fear cannot leash me. See your way to safety. My dad's advice when he trains rookie cops rings through my head. If you can see your way out, you can find your way out. It works for free runners too. I force myself to ignore hungry gravity and the 4 stories of free space below and picture my escape. My right foot finds the wall, followed by my left. I jump them up until they are crouched beneath me and I'm in a cat grab position, hands gripping, legs tucked, ready to spring. Savitri sails over me. Her thump landing is much heavier than she is. It shakes my grip, and I try to dig my fingers into stone. I've got you, Holly. She grabs my wrist. But I don't loosen my grip. I can fix this on my own, more than fix it. Fast as I can, I muscle up, pulling my weight and tucking my feet until I'm crouched on the ledge. I go for a showy move to cover my fear. An A-twist, big one-footed takeoff, flying cartwheel, plus a half twist. That should do the trick. Sav flattens herself against the roof, and I twist over her as if we'd planned it. I land soft as a cat. Sav laughs, too loudly. She must have seen how my feet caught the edge of the roof instead of clearing it. A quick fall and a quicker grab. Good reactions, leopardess pace reactions. Thank God. I glance at Corey, my twin bro, who was already on the far side of the roof. Sav gets up, her shirt polka dotted with rooftop gravel. She squints at me, ever watchful. So, she says, our way of checking in. Options: collapse and cry, or keep moving. So, I say, close. Centimeters. Her voice quiet and gravelly as the rooftop. Sav has the best voice in the history of womanhood. Corey calls it sandpaper wrapped in silk. I try to concentrate on that rather than on how her voice is shaking. It must have looked bad. It must have been bad. So I deliberately unclench my hands. Never let fear rule. Ready? Before she answers, I take off and the world rushes at me, all speed, no hesitation, just my own heat, pumped from my own heart, running my own blood, which helps stops the shaking and settles the stomach. Corey is closing the distance to the front of the building, to the facade that upgrades its look. A fancy brick front to dress up the cheap sides, and a short brick wall that rises above the roof in steps towards a capstone. On his way, he detours, jumps over a single forgotten planter, and then races up the steps to the capstone. I go after him. Sav, just a couple of seconds back, sprints to the far side and joins us. Sav be nimble, Sav be quick. When all three of us are gathered on the makeshift podium, panting out our steam, we survey our domain. I grab Corey's hand and he grabs Savitri's. We stand together for a moment of us, our training sign-off. The Chicago wind kicks up, bringing us lesser samples of scents from below, rotting apples and nicotine. Snow lies on the ground in half-melted lumps, like campfire-burned marshmallows, black pollution crusts with slashes of white. This fall spring day turned the skies a shocking blue, drove the thermometer far above freezing, and let us out into our city, so much more than training in a gym with soft mats and predictable obstacles. When you free run outside, a standard row of storefronts becomes a multi-level playground. We turn stoops into springboard, ricochet off walls, and throw flips off parapets. We scale buildings using windowless ledges as complex ladders. Run outside and the city is no longer dead concrete and asphalt. It becomes my instrument. Percussive. I wake it up. Now Corey, who apparently has one more trick in him, scoots his feet to the back to the edge, prepping for a handstand 50 feet from the pavement. I steal Sav's smile. Hers fades while mine grows. Sav worries too much. Corey's indestructible. He places his palms on the platform and levers his legs over his head. Muscles over gravity, complete control. His blonde hair hangs and his face goes from cream to eggplant while blue veins bulge in his neck. His sneakers slice through the setting sun. I let out a howl that gets Sav to startle and Corey to laugh. His body shaking. He pikes down and seamlessly flips backwards. I throw a Webster cartwheeling through the air. Sav just hops down. As Corey walks up to her, she shakes her head and walks away toward the gardening shed that sits on the corner of the rooftop. What's wrong? He calls to her back. I'm okay, aren't I? You're perfect, she says, her voice flat. Corey and I exchange a glance. Okay, so they get into a little bit of an argument where Sav is mad at Corey because he didn't even notice that Holly had fallen. And then they sort of make up a little bit. They're trying to make up. She and Corey, Sav and Corey. So he says to her, "See," he says, "it's all good." She doesn't smile, but she lets him take her hand. Still, he has to do all the leaning to kiss her. Mid-kiss, she grabs his face and yanks him closer. Corey hesitates, startled, before stepping in, slipping his hand around her and pressing the small of her back. Her move, his response, means one thing. She hasn't mentioned Princeton. She was supposed to hear like everyone else. She wasn't supposed to hear like everyone else until April 1st. But yesterday, she brought over McDonald's bag loaded with fries, root beer, and a cherry pie. Corey, who knows that this meal is code for best friends only, vanished. She showed me a letter from Princeton that neither of us could make sense of. So this afternoon, we brought it to our retired from the runway Richardson, our stick-thin college counselor. Turns out a few colleges will, very occasionally, try to capture their best applicants' attention with a note like this to let candidates know that admission is likely. Likely, just likely, I told myself, but Mrs. Richardson was wearing her Ivy League green. Sav's options revamped. Princeton, alone, or Chicago, with us. I'm sure it will rock her world to turn down her dream school, but she won't go. She wouldn't leave us. Would she? I watch Sav as she watches Corey. He throws his foot over the parapet, getting ready to scale his way down. She lets out a soft sigh and smiles, as if recording this moment for posterity. Shit. This is the second scene. While Corey walks Sav to her car, I'm waiting inside Vidana, our zippy little silver Mini Cooper. When our mom's parents died, they left a trust for Corey and for me, which is translated into a private education and Vidana. Corey wanted to give our baby a woman's name. Fine, whatever. But Sav said he was, quote, falling victim to an archaic misogynistic thought pattern. He crossed his arms and said that it clearly wasn't archaic, and that whether he was falling victim to it or not, he was not driving a male car. So they met in the middle, and the Dana was born. I could take off and let her drive him back to our neighborhood. Probably should take off, but with Princeton in the mix, I don't know if they're going to need time together or space apart. I drum my fingers on the steering wheel. So she gets out a book and starts to read it. I'm almost through part 1 of Origins when a rap on the window startles me back to the real world. Corey. I put the book in the back seat while he gets in, locks the door, and straps on his seatbelt. He sits upright, not looking at me. The silence stretches out. I shove the Dana into gear, and we slide around corners, mazing on one-ways until we're headed in the right direction. We drive past a burnt-out empty lot with one tree standing on its own, and Corey is silent, still rigid. I hate not knowing what to say to my twin, the guy who has been finishing my sentences since sentences were an option. I nudge him with my elbow and he looks at me. So, I say. So, he says, Princeton. Has she decided? There she goes, he says, pointing at her Subaru as she glides in front of us. He shrugs. She says she hasn't. But it doesn't matter, he says, his voice tight. I'm sure we'll make it work. I'm not so sure. When it comes to relationships, there is no halfway with Sav, a condition of her lioness loyalty. With Sav, you're either in or you're out. She's just like Corey that way. When Josh screwed me over last year, they froze him out so fast he practically had icicles hanging off of his fingers. Is that what she said? That you guys could make it work? I ask. That's what I said. The light turns yellow and I start to gun it, remember my 2 speeding tickets and hit the brakes. One more and my parents won't let me drive. Sav sails through, her windshield wiper waves, so long, suckers. But then she pulled over, loyalty winning the day. Is that a good sign? Do you think it's a problem? He asks. Nope. I school my face into a casual expression that would fool anyone. Bullshit. You're worried too. I roll my eyes. Can't keep anything from him. We might as well share the same brain. He pauses and an SUV pulls up next to us at the light. Well, there's another option then, he says, which is transfer. Princeton can't be the only school in New Jersey. Someplace will accept me. I frown. I'm nothing if not a Chicago girl, and I'm not that into following Sav around the country. But I'm even less into the idea of Corey and me separating for college. We're supposed to share an apartment, for one thing. Hmm. Okay, I have to pause for a moment and ask you what you're seeing. Are you seeing my share screen?
I'm still seeing the cover of Chasing Shadows.
Okay, you're going to understand why this matters in just a moment. It's important that you get the visual for this, otherwise, it's not going to work. I won't look at him. I stare out the windshield. Two disappearing acts in one night. First Sav, now Corey. Holly, he says gently. As he moves into my peripheral vision, I turn my head and look out the side window, taking in the street. And I see everything change. Time slows. Sounds stop as my brain captures images frame by frame. My mouth goes bone dry. I can't manipulate my tongue to say anything, not even to scream. All the words I have ever known fracture. And that's the end of chapter one. So, thank you. So that's why you had to endure looking at that screen for so very long. It's the novel that is partly in prose, as you see, and then partly in graphic novel. And that's the first transition where we go into graphic novel. And then we go into Saf's point of view. And then we go back into Holly's, which kind of goes in and out of graphic novel based on what she's thinking about from then on. So that was the challenge, I would say, of writing the second book and getting it published. Luckily, I had a 2-book contract. So my editor was not into the idea when I proposed it to her. And then I sent her the chapters, and she was like, oh, you really can't tell this story without making it a hybrid novel. So I guess we're going to do it. And then she got on board, and she was great. So I was lucky to have that opportunity to be able to do something a little different with form. You don't usually get to do that. And I don't think I would have gotten it if it hadn't been for the fact that it was the second book in a 2-book contract. Does everybody know what I mean when I say that? Is there anybody who has a question about what that is? I'm watching for hands. Okay, good. Great. You guys are up on the business. So yeah, so that's what that's how I kind of snuck that one in. Um, Otherwise, I think it would have been much more of a challenge. It published the same year a couple of books like it published. And so we all kind of came out in the same time with this idea of merging a graphic novel with a prose novel. Um, and the truth is, none of them hit that well. Only one of them hit that well. And that was by Kate DiCamillo, who can do anything she wants. Uh, so um, I don't know that I would do it again, but honestly, I loved doing it. And I loved the way that you have to, as a reader, change from doing the work of prose to doing the work of a graphic novel, and the space that it takes for imagination in a graphic novel, and how that's a very different process in your own brain versus prose. Because a lot of the book is about the idea of what's going on inside Holly's brain and how it's maybe not working that well anymore. And so every time she has problems and her brain isn't working quite as well, we're seeing her move into graphic novel. And so I wanted that sort of uncomfortable switching to be part of the reader's experience. Uh, but it was great to write. I'm really proud of the way it turned out. As Stanley mentioned, it got a bunch of awards, not awards, a bunch of talk about awards actually, and it got nominated for a big, big award that only writers get to hear about, that you get nominated. Sadly, the rest of the world doesn't get to hear about it. It didn't make the final cut. So I'm glad I wrote it. I'm glad it came out. And it taught me a lot about the idea of how you can use different forms to create these different reading experiences. So that was great. Oh, good. Steve, you have a question?
Yes. So did you draw the graphics?
Oh, no. No.
So,
This was illustrated by Craig Phillips, who's an amazing illustrator. I felt
okay.
like he could reach into my brain and pick out the images I wanted. What I did was I wrote the graphic novel script, which, so then what you do is you describe well, what I did was I described how I wanted the page to look, like where I wanted all the boxes to fit. And then I wrote down everything I wanted in the boxes and all the dialogue. So he kind of felt like, I hope he felt like he could take the script as it was written and be able to envision what I was looking for. He was really great at it. He really understood flow and movement in a way that I couldn't hope to. So I'm grateful I got him as an illustrator. Thank you for asking me that. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I have one more question. I was a little confused as to who was who.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Holly and Corey
Savitri.
are the twins,
They're the twins. Yeah.
twin women, girls?
No, Corey's a
No?
boy and Savitri's a girl. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Corey's
okay.
a boy and Holly's a
Okay.
girl. Savitri's a girl too.
And who's Shiv?
Who,
Shiv?
I'm sorry?
Shiv?
Savitri? Savitri.
Sav, yes. Who's
Yeah.
that?
That's Holly's best friend and Corey's girlfriend.
And does the cat have a name also?
Oh, the cat is a figure in the series of books she's reading.
Oh,
So she's reading a graphic novel called The Leopardess, and
okay.
she wants to be like the leopardess.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It didn't occur to me that it would get confusing.
Well,
So when she has these moments where she starts seeing everything in graphic novel, she starts to
hmm.
believe she is that character.
Oh, okay.
So,
You and you read beautifully. I mean, it's
oh,
just
thank you.
lovely to hear you.
It's
Welcome.
Stanley and I were talking about that. Maybe you heard. Stanley and I were talking about
I
at the
did.
beginning and how I want to be able to read with all the characteristics that I hear when I write. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
I hear all these intonations in their voice, and I would love to be able to reproduce that when I read.
Hmm.
So
I have
you
a
can experience
question.
it the way I do.
Yeah.
Yes, question. Thank you.
Did you
Thank
find
you.
your illustrator, or were you assigned an illustrator once the book got picked up by your publisher and sort of agreed to it in process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel really lucky with how it worked. The way it normally would have worked is that she would have found the illustrator, and that would be that. I would have no say in the matter,
Hmm.
and that's the way it goes. Because I should say that that's only true because I was in a traditional publishing house, Random House, and they
Hmm.
didn't have a graphic novel arm yet. So they
Okay.
didn't know really how to do graphic novels yet.
Hmm.
So they approached it the way you approach a picture book. And
Hmm.
the way picture books are approached is that you get an art director who does all the work with the artist, and you have an editor who
Hmm.
does all the work with the writer. And the writer and the graphic artist never speak to each other.
Hmm.
Um, Comics usually works quite differently. With comics, it's usually there's an illustrator and a
Hmm.
writer who come on kind of at the same time, and it's a collaborative effort. And the idea when you talk to a comic artist, the idea that you never have any contact with them is to them, they're like, I don't even know how I would do it.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So that was, so they sort of handled the model a little differently than is
Hmm.
typical. I feel really lucky because she asked me, is there an artist you want? And I was like, well, I don't know artists well enough. And she said, well, look a little and tell me if there's a look you want or something you're going for. And so I sent her a bunch of different images. And then she sent me his webpage. And I said, well, I like some of it, and some of it I think is a little off the mark. And she
Hmm.
said, oh, that's great. Which images do you think are like in the realm? And so I told her that. And he then could come up with, I think, with character sketches that
Hmm.
were a little more, some of his style is really abstract, and I didn't
Mhm.
want an abstract look. I wanted something like like a comic artist.
Uh-huh.
So so I was zeroing in on like I want her to look as realistic as possible. Um, so that's why he did that. So I was very
Mhm.
lucky. I feel very lucky
Cool.
that I was treated with such respect. Um,
Mhm.
if I ever write a picture book, I don't think I'll get that again.
It looks like Civil might have a question.
Yeah, a quick
Oh, great.
question. And
Hmm.
this is interesting that you have in the beginning kind of a graphic novel inside of your hybrid novel. How'd you come up with that?
This is the advantage of really loving and knowing your characters really well. I felt like I was following Holly on her journey, and she was obsessed with graphic novels. And so I became obsessed with graphic novels. And I really hadn't read almost any actually when I started this book. I had read Archie when I was a kid, but mainly what I had read was a book, a whole series of comics that are produced by this uh, publisher in India that's called A March at Thrakatra. And if you grew up like I did, here in the United States, you will inevitably see these comics as an Indian person, like because they are everywhere, and they're just so ubiquitous in India that they are able to be shipped over here. So I grew up with most of the stories about India that I had in these little comics. And so when I was thinking about this story, and she was obsessed with comics, I decided to start putting in Indian myth and how Indian myth would affect these comics and her perception versus Savitri's perception of them. So then I could get into interracial friendship a little bit. So it was basically the idea of like following your characters wherever they go. You guys have been great. Thank you.
That is so cool. And I love how it adds another layer to the story since she wants to be like the leopardess and she wants to be in a graphic novel and her thought. Yeah, that's really fascinating.
It's kind of hard to explain all of it. I feel like it's
Hmm.
kind of a big thing that got compressed. But it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to
Hmm.
have completed it and to have learned so much on it.
Hmm.
Before we go, and I know we're right at time, I just want to find out from all of you if you are fiction writers. This will help me know what kind of prompts I want to give you. And if you are already working on something. And if you guys can pop that into the chat, I will stay on and see what it is, what the answers are. I just want to make sure that I'm serving you as best as I can. I'm really interested in teaching the people in front of me, not to sort of a mythical audience that doesn't exist in reality. So and I have been teaching for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. So I have a ton of prompts that I can give you, and I just want to center in on something that is going to be the most helpful for you.
We did get one question in the chat.
Oh,
Emily
great.
Dravansky said, I wondered if you have any teens read drafts for feedback before you finish your final drafts.
I don't.
Hmm.
I don't. This sounds crazy considering I write for teens. I don't trust them to read for my feedback. I write for them, but I don't think they would know how to present feedback particularly well yet.
Hmm.
It's a skill. It's a really honed skill that this is one of the reasons you get an MFA and you go to workshop groups,
Hmm.
is that you have to learn how to give feedback in a way that's super productive and helpful. And I take people's feedback extremely seriously. In fact, my writers group is like, you can let that comment go now. You fixed the problem. I take it very, very seriously. I have so much respect for the people who would take their time to read for me and bother to
Hmm.
give me a letter, that I want to take everything they say very seriously. So that's why I'd say I wouldn't trust myself, I guess, to be able to filter out the inexperience of my teen readers.
Which is a fantastic skill. That's also part of what we learn in the MFA, right? Is how to find our
Absolutely.
readers well and to go, oh, that feedback doesn't align. Wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. Because it's so
Yeah,
tempting as a young writer to just take it all, and then suddenly it's not your story anymore. It has been
I
transformed into
know.
the workshop story. And yeah.
Yeah, it's so. it can be so overwhelming.
Hmm.
Takes some experience.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because yeah, sorry, I was just thinking the impulse would be to yeah, have some teens read it, but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you're absolutely right. I feel like my students who are teenagers would be too complimentary or
Mhm.
wouldn't understand the process quite in the way I would need to for really serious feedback. Let's see, Olga just said, would you say you write organically and your characters kind of take over where the story leads you?
Thank you, Olga. Yes, definitely. I really feel like I invent these characters and I want them to take over the story. I want to lean into who they become. Um, I feel like that at some point in writing a book, they'll do something on the page that surprises me.
Mhm.
And whenever that happens, I'm like, oh, I've got it now. Now I can relax. I think it's a little like raising kids. Like I loved raising my children. I had a great time. They were wonderful. And when they got old enough to make better decisions for themselves than I could make for them, I relaxed. They were
Mhm.
adults by then, of course, but they were like 16 and 18 when they did it. But when I saw them do it, I went, oh, I finally don't have to make decisions for these young people anymore and try to shape their lives. Again, I'm susceptible to pressure. I want to get everything right. So it was, I'm like, excellent. We can have real conversations now.
Mhm.
So I am happy to stay on as long as you guys would like to chat, but I do want to respect everybody's time, including yours, Stanley. And so if you need to
I'm right.
move the meeting over to me. I'm happy to stay on, but I also want to make sure that if you have another obligation, that you don't feel torn by leaving.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm free to stay on for a few more moments. I'm gonna have to turn on some lights in just a minute. The sun's going down and it's getting dark in here. But other than that, let's
Um,
see. It looks like we have a ton of genres listed in the chat.
Great. That is going to be so helpful. And I just need to know if people write fiction. Oh, poetry. Okay. Fairy tales, fiction. This is going to be an interesting thing to try to put together some great prompts for you with all your different forms. I'm going to love it.
Yeah,
I
it's
love the
always a
challenge
bit of
of
a
it.
mix. Good,
Mhm.
good.
Exactly. That's wonderful. We might be working with the idea of stories and chapters. That's what I was initially thinking. And so I want to ask the person who writes poetry, is it novel in verse or is it poetry as in standalone poems? This is, oh, civil.
Standing alone.
Okay.
But I hadn't thought about that, the other idea. So maybe that can be something for me to explore.
I love writing. I started writing a novel in verse that I've left for a little while, um, just because I'm trying to get this other book done. And I could not believe how much I loved writing it. I was like, oh, this gives me so much freedom, which is not how I thought poetry would be. I thought I would feel like, oh, I've got to keep the lines exact. This is the form and all that. And it didn't do that at all.
Oh, that's really cool.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me know. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this if I can figure out how. And I just love my ability with tech. It's fantastic. My my husband's a tech person, and so I'm like, here, fix it all the time, and I never learn anything. Um, but I really appreciate your engagement. Thank you all.
Thank you for being with us, Swati. We really appreciate it. And we cannot wait to hear from you next week. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
just to put it out there, we have not yet had a novelist talk to us about like the novel form in a really
Mhm.
like you were saying, chapters and openings. Just saying.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us could get a lot out of that. Just saying. Um,
Okay.
because one thing we love about this program is that it does bring in so many different types of writers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
And the truth is, whether you're writing fiction or a short story memoir or poetry, the first experience that the reader has when they open your book is
Mhm.
crucial to understanding what comes after it. So I'll probably
Yeah.
focus on it that way. And I hope you guys are interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swati. Thank you for being with us tonight, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
We'll see you next week.
Okay. I'm just reading over the comments.
Oh no, by all means, by all means. I just stay in here as everybody cycles out. And when I close it, the chat will close. So I'll stay in here as long as
Oh,
you need,
thank
Swati.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got quite a few fiction writers and poetry, fairy tales, which is fiction,
Hmm.
story, two memoir writers, two poetry writers. Excellent. That'll be
And
fun.
Jennifer Wise put fiction in there. Jennifer Wise is now writing fiction. I just have to put this out there. She has an MFA in poetry. So she is also a poet, but she will actually be published in the Santa Fe Literary Review
Oh,
this year
great.
because last year in my fiction class, she wrote this speculative short story that is so insanely good. She's really incredible. She's really, really wonderful. I don't know if you saw at the very end of the chat, she said, I've really enjoyed the marriage of dialogue and lyric prose in your excerpts. Just one example, sandpaper wrapped in silk. Thank you. Such great perspectives you've shared this evening. Jen
Oh,
is
that's
really, really wonderful.
fantastic. Yeah, especially because now it looks like I am writing a little poetry. So it's great to have it sound lyrical to someone who has an MFA.
Yeah, I know exactly. Steve, did you have something that you wanted to share or anything? Oh,
Can't get off mute.
here. Can I don't think I can unmute you. I think I can just ask to
There we
unmute.
go.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yep. No, I after all the feedback about what people are writing, what genres they're writing, I felt maybe that I didn't want to say so, but I haven't written any of those genres. I haven't written much. My dad was a journalist, and I write. I've written all my life little things, but never a memoir or a novel in fiction or historical or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I'm
You know,
new.
writing little things can be, I mean, like, I assume you've heard of prose poems.
No.
Prose poems might be what you're writing.
Hmm.
So
Or
these
flash
are,
fiction.
yeah, these are little like paragraphs or something like that, that it's like a poem, but it's not broken up. So it reads like a
Uh-huh.
paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Um, there is, oh, Stanley, you're going to know. She won the National Book Award a while ago, and she's a Black woman, and she wrote a
You're
poetry and
talking about
prose.
the book Citizen
Yes,
by I can't remember her name. I can remember the book title though, because it's a phenomenal book.
it is. I wonder
Um,
if you wanted to take a look at that.
okay.
It's
Okay.
Claudia
amazing.
Rankine.
That's right.
Claudia Rankine. Yeah. Um,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's a book length piece of prose poetry about race in America, and it's phenomenal. It came out, I want to say right after Trayvon Martin was shot.
That
The
sounds about right.
the
Mhm.
cover is a white field with a black hood that's been ripped from a hoodie, just sitting in the white field.
Wow.
It's incredible. And she has photos in it so that she has this visual evidence she can like put up to discuss. It's so incredibly good. Um, yeah, or flash fiction. And if you
Or
want
flash
someone who does
fiction.
that, Kathy Fish is a phenomenal flash fiction writer. I primarily write flash fiction actually when I'm not working on a novel. And that's fiction that's 1,000 or 2,000 words or less. The definition is a little bit, wiggles a little bit. But yeah, super short stuff is very relevant. We like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes super short stuff lasts much better than the longer stuff because there's less to hold on to and preserve.
Right. Right. I also think that some super short stuff is so powerful because it's short.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of the 6 word poem, short
The
story. I'm
story
not even sure what to
by
call it.
Hemingway.
The one about the baby shoes.
Yeah, for sale, baby shoes never worn.
Nevermore.
Yep. Of course, do you know the whole thing about that?
No.
So he only wrote that because it was a bet with he and a writer who he used to drink with. And they said, who can write the shortest story? And so they set out, and a few weeks later they came back. He had that, so he won the bet. But historians have found that is actually, he could have actually stolen that from a newspaper there was an ad that was put out, and I think it was baby carriage, never used. It's not baby shoes, but it's the exact wording and punctuation, but with a different object and a different verb. And it had come out in a newspaper in that area a year before. And so historians think that he actually made the bet knowing he could win it because he had already pulled that from the newspaper. But yeah, six-word short stories, and they're actually anthologies now of six-word short
Mhm.
stories where authors from all over the world send in their six-word short stories and those get published all together. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Baby shoes never worn. There's Jamaica Kincaid's piece Girl that is,
Oh
less
God,
than a
that's so
page.
good.
It's actually a single sentence because it's just semicolons separating the items, and it's a mother reprimanding her daughter about how to grow up to be a good woman. And it's so incredibly powerful. And it's a paragraph. It's a paragraph
Mhm.
long. Just a single word title, Girl. It's so good. Yeah, I love super short work. Steve, if you want to talk about that super short work, I will always be willing to. It's some of my favorite stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Probably more than you bargained for, but there you
Right.
go.
I know we're giving you reading recommendations.
Two teachers in the room, that's what's going to happen.
I know exactly. Well, this has
Well,
been
it
so
was,
great, Swati.
thank you. What a pleasure. You guys
Oh,
run a great program.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping Val can be with us next week.
Oh, that'll be fun.
I know, I know. But and she gives so much to this program, and so I would love to have her here because yeah, I'm so happy to do it with her. Of course, she's so wonderful.
I agree. Okay, well,
All
take care.
right,
I'll see you next week.
all right. And if you need anything in the meantime, just send me an email and let me know.
Okay. Bye.
Perfect. Bye. Nice to meet you. Bye, Steve. Have a good night.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.